Tommy, you talked about John Cena's promo from Raw, and we're going to get into John Cena's promo a little bit more in just a bit. But you made a statement that when I first heard it, I was like, ah, come on. But then I started thinking about it, and I think I'd have to agree with you. You made the statement on a Monday that you thought John Cena's promo on Raw in Brussels was a top 10 promo that you had ever heard. And you know what, Tommy? I think I have to agree with you on that one.
Well, thank you. Man, he answered all the questions. And, for Thunder's part and for John's part, it's real. The heel turn, which I was very, very on the fence with because of how they reacted initially, but I was like, nope, this is working. It's a solidified heel turn because of those people in Brussels. It was 22 minutes, dude, of him standing. And Bully and I will always talk about stand in the middle of the ring and see how over you are. And we saw how that turn worked. And then this, I would always say that's part A. Part B, to see if your feud works or what you did worked when they're chanting for somebody else while you're standing in that ring. And then they started to come up for Cody. And his body language, everything he did made that a perfect promo. Again, wrestling being subjective, but I was like, I've never been more invested in a match because of words than I am because of this. And it made me want to see Cody. And then Cody's delivery was even more on point because he basically, the guy who never gave up, he bitched him out, called him a bitch, and John was like whiny and all the stuff that John Cena never was because it's a complete turn. But he also explained like what we come on, oh, change your music, don't come out to to music, all that stuff. And he explained why he wasn't going to change anything. It was brilliant. The only piece that I felt that might have been left with a disconnect, but I don't care, is why with The Rock. But then I got to wait to see that. We're also, at the time of the promo, was 33 days away. And I could care less about The Rock. And I'm a big fan of The Rock, but I don't need The Rock involved in this story because of how much John Cena sold me. So it was masterful the way it was done because he literally tied in his entire life and his entire career in WWE and turned it on the fans.
David, for me as a fan, when I was listening to it, the first part that I think I got everyone was his entrance. That amount of boos that he received even before he started talking, my skin was just crawling. I was like, this is unbelievable. We talk about professional wrestling being that we are in an abusive relationship. And that's in fact exactly what he described his relationship with the fans in the last 25 years, which a lot of us and a lot of the times felt that way. And we're not able to say it, especially he's being a baby face and he was the face of WWE. I just love that he utilized that because it's just so real. So many things and so many points that he said about the relationship with the fans, the way that he was, the way that the expectations that people have about you and how they can turn in a second. It's so true. And that's why I feel like at the bottom line, that's why it makes this promo so good and so real for so many people because it's what has happened. And also, I think there's like when we're talking about reality and some people might say that John Cena is this, John Cena is that, and I think he's like fitting into that too. And and just the fact that it happened now, I think it made Cody even a better and bigger baby face because when he came out, oh my God, everything just fell on Brussels. It was just crazy pop for Cody. And I know a couple weeks ago, people were complaining that Cody was getting stale. So this turn for Cena at this time was perfect for both of them because it draws people into this match.
Maybe it's time for me to redo my top 10 greatest promos of all time laminated list. I haven't done a top 10 greatest promo laminated list since 2015. So I took that out, threw it out, did a new one. Hasn't been laminated yet. Here is the quintessential Dave LaGreca top 10 promos of all time. And at number 10, Cena was absolutely fantastic. As you said, Tommy, he checked all the boxes, and all you have to do to know that this was one of the greatest promos of all time was listen to the crowd. I don't know what more you want out of John Cena. I mean, John Cena pointing out a young fan at ringside and saying, my relationship with you is a toxic relationship. Him calling the crowd sons of bitches, him calling the crowd idiot, him calling the crowd jack-offs. I mean, my God, Thunder. What we heard from John Cena was just next level.
I think that the memory for this kid after spending, I don't know, $500 on merchandise will be, he's gonna frame that forever. He's a meme now, and it's great. It's just as a young fan, like when your hero talks to you like that, it just breaks your heart, and it's just so memorable. And I feel like for so many young kids, the new generation, the hearts are broken. Because I tell you, and this is something that you were discussing earlier about John Cena, regardless if people boo him or not, he's one of the most well-known wrestlers all over the world. I can tell you, I had 20-year-old kids asking me if I met John Cena when I was doing a conference last week. And I'm just like, I'm trying for them to ask me other questions. They asked me if I knew John Cena. So he is just so still to this day, so in like culture, just American culture in general.
Yeah. Yeah, and Tommy, did you ever think there would be a time where he's calling out kids? I mean, he really, what he did, to Thunder's point, is made everybody who was wearing a John Cena shirt and a John Cena hat embarrassed for what they were wearing.
Well, the other part, which was great in his promo, he's like, now I could easily spot you. You're those,
yes,
which also gets people to buy your merch more. You're the people that the reasons why I did it. It's amazing. Also, that hat that he had in Brussels was awesome.
I think everybody should bring their John Cena shirts and then throw it at John Cena. Like they should litter the ring at every stop that he has before he says goodbye. The fans should litter the ring with John Cena gear, John Cena hats and T-shirts.
Dude, it's a great point. Think of ECW the 2006. He came into hostile territory. When he threw his shirt to you fans, which is the ultimate, people fight for that stuff, they threw it back.
They threw it back.
Yes.
They disrespected him on pay-per-view. And it wasn't like he had a heated issue against Rob Van Dam. They were two technical baby faces. Think of the sign. If Cena wins, we riot. That's
riot.
First.
That's right.
That's the first. If something bad happens to you, John, we will have, because we pulled him out, but it was like Dreamer will be there to help you because they love Dreamer. So that's literally saying, hey, biggest box office draw, this guy's loved here more than you. Think of these things that are said and done when you're on top. How could he not have resistance or pent up aggression towards people?
25 years of people making jokes about his, moniker, making jokes about him, always expecting him to be a certain type of person because he does a Make-A-Wish Foundation stuff. But what about the day that he's feeling not like taking a picture with someone, or he's feeling like a heel, or he just wants to be an asshole? He cannot do that. And now he's just like, for 25 years, he's been waiting to say this to some of the fans, regardless if it's, kayfabe or not. That's why I keep saying it. It is very freaking real.
You guys ready for number 9, Tommy? Thunder,
yeah.
number 9? All right. Now, my number 9 is MJF demanding Tony Khan to fire him. Now, we all know, Thunder, you know this, Tommy, you know this as well. MJF works blue. That was MJF on AEW Dynamite. And that was the whole story of whether or not that MJF was going to re-sign with AEW in early 2024. He did. We all know that. But leading up to it, and listen, MJF has had some amazing promos. Amazing promos. It was neck and neck, this promo and the last promo he had with CM Punk before the dog collar match at Revolution. But I chose this one, and I think kind of that soundbite encapsulates what MJF is able to do on the microphone, in the ring, in front of a crowd. And, when you look at this generational talent, which I really believe MJF is, I think he is top 10 on the microphone. I will give MJF that recognition because I think he deserves it. I think he earned it. So, Thunder, what do you think of my number 9? And what do you think of MJF on the microphone?
I always admire how well he has been able to do promos that are more than 15 minutes. That's hard to like keep people's attention and reactions to it. I think that because of the reason why that the fact that he has been able to do that maybe every other week in shorter segments, he has gotten even better and better and better. And he just like wraps people up on either if he's a super heel, he does that. If he's babyface, you believe it. Like I remember when he was going his way to All In 2 years ago, like he was able to do that. And it's just, he's very entertaining, very, very entertaining.
Here's one that completely took me off guard. And I feel like I'm not the only one that got shocked and surprised by what this man had to say on the microphone at my number 8. Mark Henry's retirement speech, or lack thereof of a retirement, Tommy, and that one hooked me. Mark did an absolutely phenomenal job. Absolutely phenomenal job where, you know, you got the crowd. Like the crowd was, you know, screaming out how they love Mark. And for those who don't remember, you kind of saw it coming. Like you thought, not that you saw the non-retirement coming, but you almost felt his retirement coming. As it got closer and closer to that Monday Night Raw, and then they made the announcement that he was going to speak, I had a feeling it was going to be his retirement speech. Like I felt like that was at the end. And what's crazy is the best was yet to come, because I think Mark Henry's best run of his entire career, Tommy, happened after that fake retirement speech on Raw.
If you also think about the person who he did it to was John Cena, and John was getting this smattering of boos. And that night when that happened, Mark became the definitive bad guy and John was the definitive good guy.
Yep. And Thunder, you know Mark. Mark can get emotional.
Oh, yes, he does.
You saw him get emotional in that ring, and then he completely swerved us. And especially, as Tommy said, John Cena.
I mean, when I talked to his son and I talked to his daughter, and they were telling me like how bad they felt that his dad totally swerved them. They didn't even know that was going to happen. I think that's the best part, when your family didn't even have an idea and you're over there and like national TV, like crying and stuff. And then he's like, suckers, you know, he did it. It was great. And you know, so hard. It is that kind of stuff. It is so hard to do.
Before AEW Dynamite, this is when AEW first started. They had their first pay-per-view in May in Las Vegas, Double or Nothing. And since they didn't have TV, because Dynamite didn't go live until October, so you're talking 5 months later, they told their stories, and they did it well on YouTube. And they had a series called The Road to Double or Nothing. And the big match on that show was Dustin Rhodes versus Cody Rhodes. Now, this match means a lot to me. This match at Double or Nothing AEW is in my top 10 greatest pro wrestling matches of all time. And one of the reasons why I got so emotionally invested had to do with Cody on the microphone, especially this promo. And he's talking about his brother, but also in that promo, he's talking about the Attitude Era. And he was talking about how difficult it was to follow the Attitude Era, where there were no restrictions, there were no stop signs, there were no speed limits. And then Cody's generation starts, and there's nothing but speed bumps, stop signs, and speed limits. It was phenomenal. And he compared his era to the Attitude Era, and I thought he did it beautifully in Las Vegas. And if you haven't seen it, it's 4 minutes of pure gold. Make sure you go back and you watch that promo of Cody Rhodes on his brother Dustin. Now, this next promo is a promo that I love so much. I actually have a sticker of this man saying a quote from this promo on the back of my truck. So if you ever see this, most likely, I don't think anybody else has this on the back of their truck. So you're probably seeing Dave LaGreca. So you know what? Give a wave or have me pull over so we can take a picture. But this man had some of the greatest promos of all time. Without a doubt, this was the greatest promo of his career. Cream of the crop, talking to Ricky Steamboat. I mean, Tommy, tell me every time you hear that, it doesn't bring back memories.
Oh, absolutely. And not known. He was not known because of his voice and his actions for these promos, but every time he stepped in front of a camera, he mesmerized you. And with those simple words of what it added, and there was T-shirts because of it, all this stuff, but yeah, very, very memorable.
Cream of the crop, Thunder, Randy Savage, oh yeah.
That's a classic. Everybody knows this thing. Everybody knows Randy Savage. Even if you are not a wrestling fan, that will be the first one that they will mention, especially with this one. And this is an iconic saying, right? Especially when you're having some. There's a funny thing when I was having some issues back in like a couple of years ago. The thing that I continue to hear from everyone is like, cream rises to the top, cream rises to the top, cream rises to the top from this promo, which is awesome. And it's been how many years that this was said?
We're going on 40 years.
Wow.
We're closing in on 40 years since that promo was
Ricky
done.
Steamboat's response in your list? It's my road to top.
Not Ricky Steamboat, not in my top 10. We're up to the top 5, in my opinion, greatest promos of all time. And if you're going to put a list of the greatest promos of all time, this man needs to be on the list, and he is at number 5. When you listen to Ric Flair, and there's a library full of promos that you could grab when you talk about Ric Flair. But I really feel coming out of the greatest Royal Rumble of all time, that could be his greatest promo and his number 5 on my list.
And just think about it. I mean, no writers. That was all just straight out of his brain. And it has lasted through time. So, yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, and winning the Royal Rumble. All right, at my number 4 is one that really doesn't get talked about enough. Now, this man, obviously, we love when he has a microphone in his hand on SmackDown on Fridays. And he's done a tremendous job on the build of the bloodline. But I'm going to go back to a promo almost 25 years ago on SmackDown at my number 4.
Was this when he was being evaluated and then getting fired?
This was on Vince McMahon, 2001 on SmackDown.
Paul could have his own list of top 10 greatest promos. I mean, he's phenomenal. He had cut one, I believe it was on Raw, when him and Bischoff were the dueling GMs, and they had to go with like being evaluated and someone was going to be fired. And I thought that was an amazing, amazing promo. Really, truly thought it was one of the best.
Now, the top 3, I think fans could probably guess. And this top 3, Tommy, for me, it could change from day to day. My number 3 could be my number 1 tomorrow. My number 1 could be my number 3 later on today. These top 3, to me, stand head and shoulders above any other promo. Can you kind of guess in your head what these top 3 might be?
I cannot, because of a lot of promos I'm shocked that aren't on your list.
It's very hard to come up with this list. It's very, I mean, again,
all this is subjective, David.
It really, you know what, Tommy? It really is subjective more than anything else. We talk about music. Your top 10 favorite songs of all time are going to be extremely different than mine. But these top 3, I feel like, really changed the landscape of professional.
If you're asking me to guess, yes, no?
Yeah, throw out a guess.
If in these top 3, Hard Times or the Pipe Bomb are not in it, fraudulistic list.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see if they are. And I got to tell you, the 2 you just mentioned, not my number 3, because my number 3 will go back to many years ago and King of the Ring. How phenomenal is that promo where it takes you back to that place and time in history when it comes to pro wrestling. And maybe at that moment you didn't know what the ramifications were going to be, but my God, those ramifications changed the landscape of pro wrestling. And that 316 was on every sign and every shirt for years, to the point where if you go to a wrestling show now, most likely somebody is going to have a 316 shirt on. Thunder?
Wrestling business.
Yeah, I mean,
316.
I don't even think he knew that this was going to be the ramifications of this promo, just in general, for his career, for his future wallet, and also for professional wrestling just in general. I mean, if you hear 316 is, directed to Stone Cold Steve Austin. And like, now that you play it, I can seriously play it in my head too and see how he's like moving his head and doing the whole thing. It was just like, those are like things that you like, it's magic in a bottle. Like you can't do it again. And he didn't even know that this was going to happen either.
No, and Tommy, the story is that he said it many times. He was at the hospital. Obviously, he had to get stitched up for what happened earlier on in the night. And he comes back and they just tell him, hey, Jake Roberts cut a religious promo on you. And then, boom, that was what came out of his mouth on the microphone. Like, just say, hey, you got, Jake Roberts cut a religious promo on you. And then, Jake Roberts is getting escorted out down the aisle. And that's what came out of Stone Cold's mouth. Amazing.
Again, an era where you had to talk to earn your money. And that's why promos were really, really solid, because they were so real. Done on the fly, changed the business.
Off the top of his head.
Yep.
And then you think about the winners. Austin 316 just whipped your ass. And then like the way he wraps up the promo, like it's like all these winners in one promo, that when you think of Stone Cold, those are the things that you think of when you think of one of the greatest of all time on the Mount Rushmore. Now, Tommy, you mentioned two that you said have to be in the top two, correct?
For your list, yes.
I remember watching this on Channel 41, Mid-Atlantic Wrestling. Wow. Had no idea that while I was watching it, it was going to be talked about 40 years later, because this was going back to 1985 before Starrcade The Gathering. The infamous Hard Times. I almost want Maria Menounos on the show because she can say it word for word. I mean, my God, as relevant today as it was in 1985, Tommy.
1,000%. It's in my top 3 promos of all time, just because it was so real and how it has stood the test of time.
Yes, there's no doubt. Dusty Rhodes, Thunder, one of the greatest.
One of the greatest. And he had 2 wonderful kids who are also really, really good on the mic. I love both of them. And this is another one that people will remember and still remember from many, many, many years ago. It was their childhood memories.
Yep.
So it had to withstand the test of time, especially in history, because people forget about history of things, but this one for sure, everybody knows about Hard Times.
So I got a father and son both on my top 10 list.
Yes, you do.
That's much better. That's more than the Mannings. That's more prestigious than the Mannings and the Super Bowls.
I agree.
Yeah, this is.
I still can't wait to hear this number one, because I cannot. I'm going to reboot your brain at least 15 times.
All right. Well, you're going to have the opportunity to do that, because here is, like, as great as all these promos were, here's my number one. Best in the world, CM Punk. Guys' thoughts. Thunder, what do you think of the pipe bomb promo being number one on my list?
Classic. I think everybody that has been feeling a certain type of way about a place that they work, they will love to drop a pipe bomb, but not everybody has a skill as CM Punk on the mic. So
it was such a great promo that it has a title. Think of it. I mean, your 1 and 2, everyone knows Hard Times, and everyone knows the pipe bomb, because it was such good words. They gave it a title like it was a book.
You know what? You're 1,000% right. That's why, like, those two, everybody knows Hard Times and everybody knows the pipe bomb. All right, Tommy, You said you're going to blow my mind. And I got the Phil Donahue, Eric Bischoff hair this morning. So it's going to be messy if you do what you say.
Okay. Number one, cannot believe.
Whoa. You can't start with number one.
No. I'm just saying, no, I have a lot. I have a lot.
Oh, okay.
I cannot believe on your list there is not one Roddy Piper promo.
Oh,
There is no Roddy Piper promo.
And if you think about Piper's pits, all I have to say is 1 coconut, 2 coconut. Great promo. Right?
Yes.
And you don't have one Roddy Piper on your besmirched list. How dare you?
Right.
Shane Douglas throwing down the NWA title and shooting when shooting wasn't a thing.
wow.
And talking about his father, all that stuff, and throwing down the NWA title, RIP, rest in peace, and declaring the era of the new ECW. And that was a shocker. That was the pipe bomb before it was a pipe bomb, but it wasn't seen on national television. How dare you not have Mick Foley's favorite promo in the history of his life on the anti-hardcore, and that was just in a little studio where I'm sorry to my kids that I turned down all this money and we have to live in a sweat box in Long Island. How dare you, you egg-sucking dog, do not have Terry Funk pouring oil and claiming Dusty, you egg-sucking dog promo. And then, I don't want to get emotional here, but one of the greatest eulogies Mick Foley says about Terry Funk. And he's like, the greatest promo ever cut was one word: forever. And if you really think of that and what he did for everybody, forever has got to be up there as one of the greatest promos. And these are all just me rattling stuff off my head off of this. But when Terry said that, when Mick said that about Terry, I lost it. And I watched an entire building go, and everyone was sad, but then that took us to a next level. And then Mick brought it back. Or, I will not get emotional with this, Brett screwed Brett. That was a promo. And changed the wrestling business. You had the Austin one, but that Brett screwed Brett was next level. So, I cannot believe this is your list. I don't know.
Listen, you make a great case. It's very, very hard. Piper, in a lot of ways with Piper, I hated Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper wasn't a
got
heel.
all those great promos.
Oh, my God. I hated Roddy Piper. I love Jimmy Superfly Snuka. But you're right. That Piper's Pit, that Frankie Williams. Hey, listen, one of the best mic'smen of all time, Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho is not on my list. Terry Funk
Rock
is my number.
isn't on your list.
Who?
Wow.
Rock.
Oh, yeah, but The Rock wouldn't be on my list anyway. The guy's overrated.
Dude, he's got some amazing promos.
Bias.
Yeah, top.
You're so biased.
It's
he
the
was
top
the most
10.
electrifying man of all time because he could also take you on a ride. You and I talk about this all the time. It was you'll tell me how many minutes of it, but it was a lot of promo. Ole Anderson's turn on Dusty. It's the same John Cena promo before John Cena.
There's so many. That's why it's so subjective, Tommy. It's very, very hard. I know there's going to be people that disagree, and that's fine. I know we're going to put this on YouTube. Post your top 10. I'd love to hear from the nation their top 10. This one's not, this is my personal, but I'm sure every story, every wrestler, every era, it's going to resonate with somebody in a completely different way. So that's the beauty of pro wrestling, and that's definitely the beauty
how it affected you, which is key.
Yes, absolutely.